Hello and good evening. Happy Tuesday to you all. If you are new with us or if you're not, welcome back. I'm Allison, and you are watching live from Gotham Quilts. Whether you're live or whether you're watching us on the replay, hello and good evening to you. Oh, Barbara, love these Tuesday afternoons. Well, we love them too. It's just a great time to get together. And I tell you what, we've been having a lot of fun with the theme of these shows. This theme, you might have guessed, this is going to be a knockdown, drag out, battle to the finish of 10 of the most, I would say, hotly contested quilting things. We're going to show you two different sides, the pros and the cons of both. And then what I would love for you to do is in the chat today, whether you're watching us live or whether you're on the replay, let us know what side you're on. A lot of these don't have a right or a wrong answer. It just kind of depends. So I'm really excited to see the lively debate that we'll get in the chat today. And so, hello and welcome. We've got lots of great people from across the country here. Barbara, you're watching from South Dakota from some reason. So, I hope you're having a great time in South Dakota, and wherever you are across the country, you're having a great day and hopefully some great weather. We are just coming off of the 4th of July holiday, and I tell you what, I am refreshed and happy. The 4th of July is such a fun holiday, especially the country's 250th birthday. That is, I tell you what, she doesn't look a day over 100. Any event, producer Ken and I actually just got back from a vacation. We took a little weekend vacation, and it was probably one of the most delicious vacations I've been on. We went to Las Vegas, Nevada, spent just a whirlwind of a weekend there, and ate so many fantastic and amazing things. So I am feeling quite pleased with the deliciousness that we had. And hello, Sandra from Manhattan. And we've got who else? Oh, they're coming in fast here. We've got Michelle from Iowa. We have, oh, there's the click. I didn't click it quite right here. Oh, no, Michelle, I got you twice there from Iowa. Connecticut, that's where I was going to next. Joanne, hello from Connecticut. And of course, I love it when I see my dear sweet mother watching, because if your mother can't support you, then who can? Or if your mother doesn't support you, then who will? So hello to my dear sweet mom. And we've got Raquella from a cooler New Jersey. Yeah, there's been just this heat wave going across the country. Thankfully, when we were in Las Vegas, it was not hot, and people say it was a dry heat. I don't know that I buy that. Mom, you'll have to weigh in, who's in Arizona. A dry heat is still a heat. So in any event, let's get going because I'm really excited about this. Now, a little more about, I guess, me and producer Ken and how this particular show came to be. We're a little late to this party, but we happen to be watching a show on Netflix called Glow, which is, I think it's like stands for Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. It's set in the 80s, and it's kind of like the beginning of the whole wrestling thing. And it's a bunch of women wrestling and kind of the stories around that. It's an interesting show. It's just kind of a guilty pleasure watch. But so that is what I was thinking of when we made this particular show. So if you're ready, just imagine in your head the ding, ding, ding bell of we're going to take two sides and we are going to fight to the death here. Before we get started in that, I will say that this particular show has a special sale that goes along with it for you, our fabulous Gotham viewers. And to thank you for watching us live, this sale is going to be 48 hours. It's going to end on Thursday. This is just a quick flash sale for all of my live viewers. Rim shot, yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking over here because I've got all my show running things over here. I'm going to put it at the top of the show, and then I'll also put this in a little bit later and throughout the show as well. If there's anything that you wanted to try out, you're going to get 20% off. All you have to do is shop this particular QR code. There's a special collection that is going to feature a lot of these things that we're pitting against each other. So I hope I'm not spoiling too much, but I'll give you an example. So later in the show, we're going to talk about pins versus Wonder Clips. If you are a diehard pin fan and you've never tried Wonder Clips, 20% off is a great opportunity to give the other side a try. Or if you just want to kind of retreat into your corner and dig in even more because of what you've heard on the show, it makes you love those pins or those Wonder Clips even more. Not a bad opportunity to stock up either. So click on that QR code, scan that QR code, and at checkout, use the code HOTTAKES, HOTTAKES, for 20% off. And again, that is good for 48 hours, just for our live viewers here. So, okay, are you ready? Are you ready for the great quilt debate? Okay, here's where we're at. We are going to start with probably one of the ones that gets the most attention, the most conversation. We are going to start with the first wash. When do you do the first wash of your fabric? Now, just a reminder, put those deeply held beliefs in the comments, wherever you're watching. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this. So we're pitting team pre-wash against team off the bolt. So let's take a look at team pre-wash first, right? There are traditionalists, and I would say garment sewers as well kind of fall into this. And that is, I always pre-wash my fabric before I do anything, before I quilt with it, before I sew with it. And there's a couple of different reasons behind this. Is cotton fabric generally shrinks when it's washed, and the amount of shrinkage that you'll get is going to depend on what kind of fabric it is, what the weave is, how tightly it's woven. Is it from a quilt shop, or is it from like a big box store? Those things all make a difference. And so washing is going to shrink it ahead of time, shrink it before you sew it, shrink it before you quilt it. And so you get all that, or not all that, but you get a great deal of shrinkage out before you actually sew it all together and quilt it all together. The other school of thought is that sometimes darker dyes, or if you're getting like a hand dyed fabric, for example, sometimes dyes that are in the fabric can bleed. And by washing your yardage before you sew it together, before you cut it, you are getting out some of that bleeding while the fabric is kind of like by itself. So you don't have a chance of that red fabric bleeding into the white fabric that's right next to it. So those are kind of the two schools of thought, or that's the reason behind pre-washing. We've got, oh my gosh, look at this. Okay. We've got Raquella, who is team off the bolt. And Raquella, you have to let me know why you never pre-wash. And spoiler alert, I'm kind of in that camp too, but mostly it's like I just want to get sewing. I don't want to spend the time to wash it. You guys are all lucky that I even wash my clothes on a regular basis. I'm certainly not going to spend the time to wash my fabric. Michelle is team pre-wash. We've got, let's see here. We've got Sandra, which is no pre-wash. Oh, except for a quilting group that makes baby quilts, which makes a lot of sense. I do see that probably more than anything is to take that fabric that you're going to make for a baby quilt and wash it with some baby soap, I guess baby laundry detergent. And Sandra brings a great point up here for team off the bolt, in that depending on what you're sewing, maybe you can't pre-wash it. And there's probably, it's going to cause you some heartburn, I guess, if you pre-wash some of your fabric in a particular quilt top, but not all of it. So for example, if you're sewing with a jelly roll and some background fabric, you wouldn't necessarily want to pre-wash your background fabric and not that jelly roll, because you're going to have part of it that's pre-shrunk and part of it that's not. So Sandra, you bring up a really good point in that with pre-cuts, you can't necessarily. We've got Kathy is team off the bolt. like that. That is another point. That's a great reminder, Kathy, in that when you wash your fabric, your yardage, you are getting rid of the chemical sizing that comes on your fabric when it comes directly from the manufacturer. Now, that could be a check in the column of Team Pre-Wash and that you get that chemical out. But I'm with you, Kathy, in that when you're taking that sizing out, your fabric is going to be a little bit floppier, a little less body to it to work with, and that might cause some heartburn of its own. We have Rosalemon Studio. I'm totally not pronouncing that right, but I love your comment. Only rag quilt ready. We've got another no pre-wash, and we've got Joanne after the quilt is done. I tell you what, the check is in the mail because that is going to be another hotly contested debate a little bit later. So we'll dig into that in just a second. But and Raquel, you just want to get sewing too. I can absolutely agree with that. So those are the two schools of thought of the people who are team pre-wash. My feeling is that they feel very strongly about it, but it looks like most of the comments are team off the bolt, and there's many different reasons for that. This really truly is quilter's choice. If there was something that we felt really strongly about or wanted to have you be aware of as maybe a potential pitfall, we would absolutely tell you this. But this one really is just your personal preference. Now, I will say if you are at all concerned about your fabric bleeding, as I mentioned, that is a really major reason to wash your fabric before you sew it together. There are some really helpful things. Team color catchers. If you're on Team Color Catchers, they're little color catchers. They're little kind of like a fabric-y thing that you can put in your wash when you wash your fabric. If you're dealing with some really difference in color, so if you're doing like a deep navy blue next to a super bright white, that might be an option too, is when you wash your quilt the first time, if you didn't pre-wash your yardage, if you wash your quilt the first time, throw in a handful of those color catchers. It's kind of interesting how they work, and that they are charged with, this is going to be into chemistry, and I'm going to, admit my naivety here, but they do have a negative charge to them where dye has a positive charge. And so when the dye leaves your quilt, it's going to be attracted to those color catchers, and that's where it's going to stick. So throw a handful in there. You'd much rather the dye stick to the color catcher than to other parts of your quilt where you don't want that dye to show up. And we do have Team Color Catcher, so I guess that's a third option here. Oh, I love this idea too. And color catchers are not just for when your quilt is finished, when you're washing your yardage. Sandra uses color catchers in the water washing the yardage. So that is the first matchup that we have. Team pre-wash versus team off the bolt. It looks like team off the bolt, ding, 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 is the first winner. Okay, let's talk about the next one. This is another, actually a lot of these have, I'm going to probably say that a lot of these have very strong opinions on, and we've got team pressing to the side, pressing to one side versus team pressing your seams open. Now, this one, a lot of it is going to depend on what your pattern is. So let's take a look at the pros for pressing to the side. So there are a couple of different things. So most often you'll hear this where you're reading or sewing up a pattern. They will say, press your seams to the dark side, to the darker fabric. It has a benefit of kind of hiding those seams. If you press to the light side, sometimes you'll see a shadow of where that double up of the fabric is. Not necessarily the end of the world, but you'll see pressing one way or the other. And the main benefit of doing so, to pressing to one side or the other, is structural integrity. If you think about it, your seam, as you can see in the picture here, your seam is protected. It's kind of nestled in between your your fabric here between the top of your fabric and then your seam allowance when you press it over to one side. So your thread, your stitch line is protected. The other lovely thing about pressing to one side is it will allow you to very easily nest your seams. Like you can feel when you've got your seam allowance to one side and you can kind of lock it in, assuming that's the way your pattern goes. You want to nest your seams together, join your blocks, and then kind of lock them in place, and you can really feel where those two seams come together and those points or joins meet. We've got a lot of depends on this one, and I think when we talk about open pressing, you'll probably understand why. So those are the pros for pressing to the side. Pressing open. Pressing open, you are, as you can see in the picture here, you are putting one seam allowance to one side and the other seam allowance to the other side, and so you have your open seam. What this is going to do is it's going to eliminate a whole ton of bulk. If you have a lot of little pieces or if you have a lot of joins coming together, the open seams is going to mean you're going to have basically like half as much fabric, sometimes even less than that or more than that, I guess, in your seam allowances. This also is very helpful for your long armor, especially if you have a lot of points coming together in the same place. Some of those seams can get really very bulky very quick if you've got double layers of 8 different fabrics all coming together. So the con side of this is pretty much the opposite of pressing to the side, in that your seams, your stitching line can be completely out there in the open, and that when you're looking at your seams that are pressed open, you might even be able to see some of your threads depending on how that is. Now you can counteract that. If you do have something where you are pressing your seams open, consider shortening your stitch length so you can have more stitches to hold those fabrics together. And generally speaking, whether you press your seams open or to the side, once you get something quilted and you do a relatively good job quilting and you follow the instructions of your batting to make sure that you are doing it dense enough, that's going to give you some protection of your seams as well too. So let's see what people are saying about team pressing to the side or team open pressing. Sandra waffles. It makes it easier to butt the seams when you do to the side. Absolutely. That to me sometimes is reason enough. Raquel says to one side for integrity reasons. I like that a lot. And then okay, so Patricia, setting a seam and then press to nest the seams open. So it looks like we've all kind of found ways around this to make sure that our seams are working for us in whatever project we're doing. But I think it was Raquel who just said it really depends on the pattern. And Raquel, I 100% agree. That's what a hammer is for. Or a heavy clapper, depending on what you've got in your quilting room. But you could do that if you've got a lot of seams nesting together. Don't be afraid to use something heavy and just pound those into submission. That's a great option too. That also gets out some frustration. Like if you've done some ripping, maybe that's a great opportunity to get that hammer out. So it looks like this one, we're going to call this a draw. We're going to call this one a draw. Okay, the next one. And Joanne, I think you were talking about this, is the surface texture. So 2 schools of thought on this one too. And think about this if you are giving a quilt as a gift, for example. In what way? Because at some point, I hope all of your quilts get washed, I guess, unless they're display show quilts. But anything that's designed to be used is going to be washed eventually. When you are giving a gift, let's say, or after you finish a quilt, do you wash it right away? Do you get that kind of crinkly look? Do you prefer that? Or do you prefer Team Pristine is what we're calling it. Nice, flat, exactly as it's sewn, crisp, sharp edges. So when you have a quilt, are you Team Crinkle or are you team Pristine? Now this one is, I'm gonna tell you, spoiler alert, this one is 100% the individual's choice. This is quilter's choice on this one. There's no right or wrong one. It's just a different feel. Team Crinkle is really very like cozy and cuddly. It's what you think of when you think of like a quilt that's been around, a vintage quilt. Um, how this comes about is, as we said at the top of the show, cotton shrinks, cotton fabric shrinks. So when you combine the cotton fabric on the top with the cotton batting, those things will shrink at slightly different rates. And so you'll get this lovely kind of puckery textured surface on a quilt that just screams comfort. It also has the benefit that crinkliness is hiding and distracting, I guess, from just these little minor imperfections. It just makes your quilt soft and drapable and very usable and very approachable. Now, Team Pristine on the right there is flat, crisp perfection. This looks really great in kind of a modern graphic style. It definitely is probably, well, I guess, well, definitely, it probably is what you want in a showpiece if you are going to display your quilt. Um, and this you can get, and I would say keep, if you do what we talked about in the very first matchup, and that is pre-shrink all of your things before you sew it. Now, you will always have some amount of crinkle after you wash it once it's put together, but pre-shrinking will keep that pucker, that crinkle to a minimum. Let's see here. So we've got, oh, Sandra prefers Team Pristine. I love that. And that's another great little addition because I did mention when you're giving a quilt gift, it's always nice and lovely to give a note on how to care for it. I've heard so many stories that just kind of break my heart of people who they spend all this time and this money and this heart on making a quilt as a gift, and then the recipient doesn't want to use it. They don't want to get it dirty. They don't want to ruin it. These quilts are meant to be used and loved, so just giving a little card, to say how to take care of the quilt, I think it goes, miles. And include some color catchers. That might be the theme. Maybe we could get sponsored by color catchers, I'm not really sure, we'll see. But Michelle is Team Crinkle. We've got Raquella, who is Team Pristine, and, let them know. Now, like I say, this one is personal preference. Okay. This next one, I think you might have some strong feelings on. So let's talk about the stash gap. And this might need a little bit of explanation. And, maybe this is something I see just being in a quilt shop more often, but I'd love to know how you feel. What happens when disaster strikes and you run out of fabric? Either you made a miscut, or you didn't get enough, or you thought it was fine. You decided to go a different route, maybe add some extra blocks. What do you do? Are you team exact match or team close enough? And exact match is kind of the purest approach. You basically stop everything and you do whatever it takes to get that same fabric or that same fabric line that you're working on. You log online, you Google it, you go to your quilt shop and hope that they've got just a little fat quarter or a bolt left of it. You scour message boards, you reach out to Facebook groups, you do whatever it takes to find that exact same print, or dye lot, to make sure that the creative vision you had when you started this quilt is exactly what ends up in your quilt. Okay, so that's the team exact match. Do you move mountains to get the fabric that you need? Then there's team close enough. If you run out of fabric, do you just figure, I'm going to go improv? I'm going to make this creative. I'm going to find something that's similar, that looks good, maybe use it as an excuse to add some extra, bring some new fabric in. Do you shop your stash? Do you maybe bring the whole thing to the quilt store and say, what would go with this? Are you team close enough? We've got Barbara, who is exact match. We've got Kathy, who is team close enough. So, Really, if you are kind of like a highly specific, if you are making a show quilt, I think is a great reason to go team exact match, to keep that visual balance. That makes a whole ton of sense. Barbara says you're describing me. I love it. So if you are working on it really helps if you're working on like a scrap friendly quilt, or if you have a lot of similar stuff in your stash. If you're just a low volume lover, maybe you've got something that really is just close enough, and something that honors the where you started with the quilt but doesn't necessarily throw everything off the rails. Let's see here. Oh, and Sandra said it only happened to her once, which is amazing. That is fantastic. Oh, nice. And ran to Gotham and they had a fat quarter. Loved it. Loved it. Let's see here. What else here? Depends on the mood and who it's for and what kind of quilt. I love that. Because that is true. You got to keep in mind who your recipient is. So lots of good opinions on this one. Okay. Are you ready for the next one? The cozy factor. Are you team traditional cotton or are you team cozy fleece? And I think this might need a little bit of an explanation of where it's coming from. There are some people out there who say, and this is kind of, it goes to tradition a little bit. Some people say a quilt must be a cotton top, a cotton batting, and a cotton backing all quilted together. There are some people who say that. Now, there you could get lots of different kinds of cotton backings. One of the ones that I wanted to call out, and this is part of the group in the Great Quilt Debate. So if you haven't used a 108-inch wide back, we've got a handful of them. We've got a whole grouping of them on the Gotham website for you to check out. It is, I would say, a gold standard. It's if you haven't tried out a 108-inch wide back, it's fantastic. It means that you generally don't have to piece your back. You have one piece of fabric that will span the whole way, all the way up to a king size. Now, if your quilt is larger than 100 inches, that might be a very different story. But a wide back is really nice because you've got one big, beautiful, solid piece of fabric. A lot of times they have a really silky texture. I've talked about this a number of times, but a Free Spirit, for example, a lot of their wide backs are a sateen finish, so they're really kind of nice and silky, all being made with 100% cotton. It keeps the quilt lightweight, really breathable, really very uniform, and because it is cotton, it is going to shrink in a very similar rate to the top of your quilt. In addition to that, it's cotton. We all know how to work with cotton, and so it's really easy to work with on your sewing machine or your long arm, and so then it just kind of preserves tradition. Cozy fleece, and there are a couple of things that might go into this, but fleece is the one that I hear the most often of. That's not a quilt anymore. That's now a blanket when you're backing something with fleece. Now, fleece and things that are kind of like it. So I'm thinking of like Cuddle or Minky, those polyester products. Really, there's a lot to like about them. They are easy to work with. They do not shrink is the biggest difference. And so when you're thinking about how your quilt sandwich is going to behave after it's quilted and it's washed, you got to keep that in mind that your backing being polyester is not going to shrink. It's a little softer. So with Minky, you can have a pile to it, a nap. So really nice and kind of cuddly. It's going to show off that quilting like nothing you've ever seen. A lot of texture, a lot of really cool effect with that. And fleece is a little bit less because you're not going to have that much of a pile or a nap to it. But let's be really honest about this. It is so snuggly. It's very, yeah, I guess snuggly is the best way. Kids love it. quilters love to get it. Depending on where you are in the country, it might be a little warm for what you need, but it really is just a really nice way to make a quilt even more cuddly than it is before. So are you team traditional cotton or are you team cozy backing, we'll call it? We've got Barbara traditional cotton all the way. If I'm not mistaken, Barbara, you're normally in California, which I think is very, very warm, which makes a lot of sense. We've got Liz, who is depending on the quilt, that makes perfect sense. But if she's doing the quilting, you go with what's easiest, which is traditional cotton and wide back, so you don't have to seam it. Judy is, oh my gosh, team cuddle. I have heard that before of people, recipients who say, don't give me a quilt unless it has a cuddle backing, because it is all about that. That is really actually kind of funny. And Sandra did fleece for a few kids' quilts. Didn't love it. Now, Sandra, did you quilt those yourself with the fleece? Is that what caused you to not love it, or was it the finished result that you didn't adore? And then depends who are getting it. Michelle, yep, sons like cuddle. So I think that's where I'm seeing people and they're from kind of does sound about right. If you are going to make a quilt that is cuddly, it's designed to be warm and keep people warm. Fleece, minky, cuddle, those kinds of things are great to have in a backing. If you are submitting something for QuiltCon, perhaps, or you're making art pieces, something to hang on the wall, or if you are in a really hot climate where you don't need that extra cuddle factor, traditional cotton is fantastic. And then I would say, if you are quilting it yourself, do whatever makes you happy. Do whatever is the easiest. So that is the cozy factor. Okay. This is another one that people feel really, really strongly about. Binding. Are you team hand sew or are you team machine binding? So hand sewn binding generally refers to when you sew one side of the binding by machine, you flip it over and then you hand stitch the back. Never have I really heard of someone saying you must hand stitch both sides of your binding. It's usually one side by machine, you flip it over, and then you stitch by hand on the back. Now, this creates a really like a flawless, almost invisible stitch for your binding. It's relaxing, it's meditative, it's a great way to just kind of take a breath when you are all done with all of the time and effort that it took into making this quilt, just like a really nice meditative way to finish it up. But for a lot of people, it really is about that finished look to get an invisible stitch to finish attaching the binding. Now, machine binding, you can get some really nice results on that. For this one, you start exactly the same way. You're going to stitch your binding to the one side, you'll fold it over, and then you'll use your machine to stitch the binding to the back. Now, oftentimes what you'll get is on one side, you'll stitch in the ditch, so you probably won't see that stitch line. And then on the other side, you will see the stitch line. So most people generally choose something that matches their binding color, so it kind of blends in a little bit. The benefit of going this way is speed, definitely speed. In addition to that, I would say, generally end up with a slightly stronger attachment of your binding. If you think of that, you're going to have more stitches per inch when you sew by machine than you do when you sew by hand. And so if you are making a quilt for a child, or for example, something that's going to be washed a lot, something where it doesn't need to be in pristine show-ready condition, machine binding, I would say, is definitely the way to go. Let's see how people feel about machine binding. We've got machine binding all the way. Kathy, you are a person with strong opinions here. We've got Joanne with hand sewn. I love that. Joanne, you'll have to let us know what you love about hand sewing. Is it the meditative? Is it the finish that you get? Why do you go that route? We have Barbara, who is hand sewn, and with an O, hand sewn. I love it. We've got Michelle, your mom and sister are team hand sewn. Does that mean that you are not hand sewn? That you're just gonna let them sew by hand? Maybe they do all your binding for you? Wouldn't that be nice to have a mom and a sister who do that? Oh, but you are machine. I guess I should have read the next comment there. So oh my gosh, Sandra only knew about hand sewing techniques. Well, hopefully, since then, you've found machine binding and haven't looked back. That's my hope for you, Sandra. So, we've got people who feel very strongly about hand sewn versus machine binding. And actually, since I don't have super strong feelings on this one, but I am team hand when it comes to table runners or table toppers, something small, and I'm machine when it comes to big stuff. That's just kind of how I feel about that. And Kathy is allergic to hand sewing. I one day maybe they'll find a cure for that, but until then, I think just stay away. I think that's a good call, Kathy. I think that's a good call. So we've got lots of people. This one seems pretty evenly split between hand binding and machine binding, which I can get behind. Generally speaking, like I said, if you are going to submit your work to a show, if it's going to be judged, hand sewn is probably where you want to go so as to not lose points. Everyday quilts, machine, you can't compete with the speed and the durability with that. Okay, let's see what we've got next. Okay, are you team curated bundle? You like your fabric curated for you, or are you team pick it out from the wall? You're going to go your own way. This one is all about the design process and how you think about it, how that goes about. Now, curated bundles are lovely because they take the guesswork out of color theory. All you have to do is find a bundle that you like. Designer fat quarter bundles or different pre-cuts will come generally with a whole collection, and collections are designed to look good together. We at Gotham Quilts, we also sometimes curate our own bundles. We'll take different things from different lines that look really good together and put them together and make them look nice. So we take all of the guesswork out of that, make sure everything looks good together. And then you don't have to decide. You just pick the bundle that you like and go with it. Get to the fun part, right? A little quicker. Now, there are many quilters who like to pick out their own pieces. That's where they find their true artistic voice, and I love that. So maybe you walk into the shop with an open mind, or maybe you know kind of where you're going. You grab something that speaks to you, you pick out what goes together, you put some back, you pull some out. It's a whole process. Are you team pick a curated bundle, or are you team, we'll call it curate your own? Let's see here. Let's see here, Judy, who loves to pick out her own fabric. That is her favorite part of the whole process. I don't hear a lot of people saying this, but my favorite part of the whole process, not that anybody asked, but my favorite part of the whole process is cutting the fabric. I could do that all day long and then just give it to someone else to sew. I mean, sewing is fun. I love the cutting. Kathy is team from the wall. I love it. Love that. We've got Sandra, who loves to pick out her own fabric. I believe that about you, Sandra, that you are team pick out your own. And let's see here. We've got Michelle from the wall, only with help from a shop owner, or I guess trusted professional. That's fair. That's fair too. And then I think, I lost a comment here. Kathy will buy a bundle with a pattern on occasion. Sometimes it's really nice to see how things go together, to see them sewn up in a final project so you can just see what it's going to look like. We definitely understand that. We've got Barbara, team curated bundle. Love it. Challenged when it comes to color. But I tell you, no one is beyond our Color for Quilters class. So if you missed this round, stay tuned. We're going to offer it again in January. So if you want to get a little more bold and adventurous in your color, you just let us know. And Yeah, it's easy for Liz to rely on help from the shop owner. She's got an in. She's got an in. That's my mom there. So in any event, using a curated bundle does keep it nice and easy, but then you are left to somebody else's what they think looks good. Now, hopefully, there's some overlap there, but we love actually both options. We love picking them out, beautiful things for you to just pick up and go. And we also love providing tons of different options for you to curate your own designs from the wall. And a woman after my own heart, Barbara loves the cutting too. That's fantastic. Maybe you and I will have a cutting party together. Who knows? Okay, we are almost to the end here. This is the penultimate, the second to last one, fabric prep. Now, you'll have to let me know if you have strong feelings about this one. Are you team starch it up or are you team all natural? So starch sizing, we use those interchangeably. Here in the picture, we've got Best Press. There's also like a Quilter's Magic Spray. We talked actually probably about a year ago, we had a whole Gotham Live show all about starch and how much each one shrunk, how much body it gave it, any pros or cons for all that. We had a show where we took a really deep dive in starch. Now we're going to use all of those things interchangeably, but it's just something, a chemical, a spray, a liquid of some sort that's going to give your fabric extra body that will generally make it a little bit easier to sew. It'll give you some stiffness to keep things nice and straight and even. It'll also, generally speaking, reduce fraying. So any of those extra threads coming off your starch, your sizing is going to reduce that and give you, I would say, a easier, cleaner sewing experience. It also helps to prevent any distortion or stretching. So especially if you are sewing on the bias or if you're cutting and then sewing on the bias, it is going to keep that weave a little closer together to reduce some of that stretch. Now, Team All Natural says skip the chemicals. The soft drape of the fabric, either washed or as it comes off the bolt. Now, keep in mind, we'll put a little asterisk there, and that off the bolt is generally going to have some sizing to it anyway. So if you use just however the fabric comes, we're going to put you in the all natural bucket. So you could argue that some starch or sizing would give an unnecessary or kind of an unnatural stiffness to it. It creates extra steps. You've got to spray it or douse it. You've got to sometimes let it dry. Sometimes you can iron it from damp, but it's extra time to prep your fabric and it keeps you from sewing longer. You could also, depending on how you use it, if you use it maybe a little incorrectly, or if you use maybe some of the all natural products, we talked about those in the live show too, a flaky residue, or it could, if you're using a starch that isn't built for long-term storage, something that actually does have food product starch in it, so cornstarch, it could attract animals or pests or something that's going to nibble on your fabric, especially if you spray it and then let it sit for a long period of time. Okay, so let's see what people are in the comments. We've got Team Best Press, love it. We've got Starch, no, but Best Press, yes. That makes a lot of sense. We do have a lot of Team Best Press. Kathy is Team All Natural. Love it. Starch if you're pressing the seams open. We have all natural for quantity, so hand stitching. That's a great distinction. Is hand stitching versus sewing. For the hand stitching items, you definitely want maybe a little more give, especially if you're doing like English paper piecing, for example, where you want that fabric to kind of flow over your paper pieces. So in that case, a tight weave isn't your friend. Kawandi is a great example of hand stitching through a handful of layers. And so an open weave would be nicer for that. Love it. And Barbara, you and I are in agreement on a lot of things. Team Starch it up. Absolutely. And Michelle, this is a really great distinction as well. Team Starch on precision piecing. If you're sewing something with like maybe big pieces of fabric where you don't need necessarily that precision or you've got a little bit of wiggle room, Team Natural saves some extra steps, it saves some chemicals, and it gets you to sewing faster. So I think that is fantastic. As we've noted in the comments, that really either one is fine. There's no right or wrong answer here. But anytime you're doing anything intricate or another suggestion is if you're using like a woven material that has a little more fraying than you'd see in regular quilting cotton, that might be a good opportunity to bring in the starch too. So using starch when you need it is a great option. Okay, the last one. We've got keeping it all together here. Are you team pins? And we've got magic pins here, but they could be any kind of pins. Are you team pins or are you team wonder clips? So magic pins are just a brand name of pins. They've got a little special like head to them. Depending on what you like, the magic pin specifically can come in the version that you see there with kind of a cone. They've got flat ones. You've seen glass head pins. You've seen those. I love that they come in packages of like 1,000,000. I think the yellow headed pins. They are a quilter's best friend. There's no sewing room. If you checked your sewing bin or your sewing room right now, I can guarantee every single one of you has pins. They are flat and thin. You can get them in different sizes or different lengths depending on how you prefer to sew, what it is that you're pinning, and they anchor the fabric pieces directly to each other where you need them to be. You can sew right up to them because they're usually very flat and thin and can get under your presser foot. Be careful not to sew under them or sew over them rather, but they can get really close to that presser foot and that needle because they're so small. Now, wonder clips, to compare them, they are little spring-loaded plastic clips that are completely painless. Nobody has ever been pricked by a wonder clip, that's for sure. But I'm sure everyone here has been pricked by a pin, that's for sure. And they don't distort or bend your fabric. Sometimes when you're getting things pinned together, especially if you've got a lot of layers or a really thick pin, it can move things, it can shift things, and it can also bend your fabric and make it a little less accurate. They hold thick things together like nobody's business. So if you're thinking of like a quilt binding, wonder clips are a great option for that. Bag making, any of those big things, if you're sewing with like fleece or cuddle or something that's got a little bit of heft to it, it's going to keep all those pieces together without piercing the material. So you don't have to worry about going through layers and layers of thick things. We've got, and I kind of figured this was going to be the answer on this one, but between Team Pins and Team Wonder Clips, I see a lot of both. It just depends on what the project is. The right tool for the right job is what I'm trying to say. And Kathy has been known to sew over them. If there is anybody who has never sewn over a pin, that's who I want to hear from. So if you have never sewn over a pin in your entire sewing career, make sure to say something in the comments. We'll find some kind of something for you. I'm not really sure what, but that's who I'd like to hear from, is someone who has never sewn over anything. We've got Michelle, who's team both. Yep, team both. Barbara, absolutely. And Michelle has them all and loves the versatility. So I do love that. Definitely the right tool for the right job. Pins for long seams and clips to hold over binding and to hold pieces together. Absolutely. Sometimes I will use the clips as hair clips. That is not really what their intended purpose is, or a paper clip that we use them a lot for that in the shop too. Sometimes you just love the tool you're with. And Barbara agrees for thick bags and stuff. Love it. Yes. So that is where it is. If you are like, this was kind of the quintessential example of a great use of our coupon for our live show watchers. And so just wanted to put that up there again. We tried to find representatives from all of these different sides to put them together in our Quilters Debate collection. So scan that QR code. You can take a screenshot if you're on a mobile device and click on that to get there. Use that coupon code HOTTAKES, HOTTAKES, for a discount of 20% off. And again, that is good through Thursday. So be sure to take advantage of all of that for my friendly live show watchers. Okay, with that, we're going to do the last one super quick here. This is, how do you generally feel? What is your quilting philosophy? And I think this is a great place to end the debate. Are you team quilt police, follow the rules because they're there for a reason, or are you team, we'll call it improv, but I feel like improv has some rules too. Are you anything goes? So Team Quilt Police, they've kind of got a bad rap, but it represents traditional quilting excellence. It's technical mastery. It's learning from those who came before you, perfect 90-degree corners, flat quilt tops, following all the rules to get all of the things in your quilt as the way has historically and traditionally been. They could argue that having these standards, maintaining these processes, it keeps the historical integrity of the craft. Now, I feel like that feels very lofty for what it is that we're doing here, but it really, these rules, we'll call them, were made to ensure that your quilt is going to last for generations, that it's not going to fall apart after the first washing, after you spend so much time and money and love and heart into making this, that following these quilt police rules will make sure that your finished result lasts as long as possible. Now, the other side of this is we'll call it the do as you want camp, the whatever works camp. And I'm trying to get back to the comments here. And that is that rules are meant to be broken. However you make it work is how you make it work. If your points are chopped off, who cares? If your lines are wonky, call it a feature, not a bug. That it's not worth it, that this is supposed to be joyful and fun and creative, and stressing over technical perfection just ruins it. This approach is a lot more... it's a lot more friendly, for sure, but I would argue that some people in the quilt police camp can be very nice about what it is. It really is kind of the heart of what we're getting to. And that the thought behind anything goes, this improv freedom, is as long as you had fun while you were making it, if it falls apart after the third washing, who cares? You learned something, right? And you don't need to do that thing. Maybe you quilt it a little bit tighter next time, those kinds of things. So let's see how people in the chat feel about this one. Let's see here. Team Improv, do what works for you. I love it. We've got Team Anything Goes. We've got anything goes. Sandra is too old for rigid accuracy. Sandra. Oh, goodness. Improv is probably more creative, but definitely no rules. Maybe that would have been a better name for this one, is no rules, or no one's getting arrested here is what we should have called it. Joanne, Team Anything Goes. It looks like overwhelmingly Team Anything Goes is the winner, and we are going to end it on Barbara, one of the nicest quilt police ladies I think I've ever met, for sure. But you're better being the quilt police and trying something improv. I like that. So all this today to say, I hope that you had a really fun time debating some of these kind of hot topics with me. Don't forget that we've got that discount going on. It's code Hot Takes. So if you have a hot take that you want to test out, or a hot take that you want to give maybe a little bit of love to, make sure you use that coupon code at gothamquilts.com. And what else do we got? I'm going to scroll through. So if you liked some of the pictures, we've got some sources there. One of the little pictures is gone, but we just want to give credit to those who made the pictures that we used for this presentation, and we thank you for your amazing pictures. Now, with that, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping here in that we have our next thread talk. So this week, boy, this month just flew by. Already we had the first Wednesday of the month. So we had our thread talk for July on July 1st. Couldn't get any earlier. Our next one is coming up. This one is Robert Boscher, and I'm certain I'm mispronouncing that, but he is going to talk about pushing boundaries of quilting. And this goes really well in line with what we just talked about, and that is the pushing boundaries of the quilts, into the improv, into what makes a quilt, what can you get away with and still call it a quilt, that kind of a thing. But it really is pushing the boundaries of those design choices and keeping quilting fun and fresh and enjoyable and creative. So it's going to be a fabulous talk. That is going to be the first Wednesday in August. I believe it's August 5th. And our thread talks are the first Wednesday of every month, always at 8 p.m. Eastern. So we love to have you. They are virtual. You can join from the privacy of your own home. And every time I attend, I learn something new and fabulous and get to hear a new amazing speaker as well. So there's still a lot of time to sign up for Robert's talk on pushing boundaries, but I just figured it went really well with the conversation that we were having today. So let's get rid of that guy. Let's see if there's any other chats. Oh, I love this. Judy, just a couple last comments before we go. Judy was for improv until she started long arming and realized the benefits of accuracy. I think, Judy, you would probably be on board with a lot of long armers saying that accuracy sometimes is better. And Valerie, I think that's you, Valerie, right? As coloring within the lines, definitely a rule follower. So I like and respect that. And last but not least, Barbara, I am so glad that you had a fun time tonight. This was a really fun show. It was very enjoyable. Can't wait to see you next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel. That is Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. We'd love to see you then. We've got a couple of shows coming up for you. Similar theme, big and small. And that's all I'm going to say about it. So those are going to be our next couple of shows. Make sure to check out that collection, the Great Quilting Debate Collection, for 20% off. And we will see you next week, if not before. And gosh, I really hope before.